welcome to episode 10 of Just Hit Play. I'm your host, Peter, and with me is my co-host, Nick. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing very well. It's been a long week of working, and sadly, Kanye West has let me down yet again. That's no surprise. So it's all good over here.
What? Explain why? How is Kanye let you down this time?
Well, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but he has a strong habit of not releasing music when he says he's going to.
No, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of par for the course with Kanye, but every album cycle, you hope that this is the time he's actually going to release the album on the day he says he does, and it never happens. So it's a familiar pain, but maybe it'll come out eventually.
Yes, we were talking, and we were going to record yesterday, but he was going to release an album. Is that didn't happen?
So he still had like a listening event experience type thing at a football stadium in Atlanta, where he covered the entire field in a white tarp, and he walked out in an all red, bright red outfit and stood in the middle of the field and kind of danced while like snippets of half unfinished songs played around him. And then walked off the field and didn't say a word to anyone half an hour later. So I'm not sure if that was the album, but that's Kanye's just being Kanye.
Well, give him props for ballsy attitude. That's pretty out there.
Yeah, definitely out there. Definitely out there.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's is he like just trolling people? Is this comedic? Is this, what do you think it is?
I really, as much as I hate to be a bummer, like I don't think his head or his heart are really focused on making super high quality polished music anymore. I think his other endeavors with fashion and business and all of that, I think that's occupied a large part of his brain, and he doesn't really have it like that anymore for music, as well as he's recently become a very devout Christian, and he's going through a divorce from Kim Kardashian right now, and there's a lot of upheaval in his personal life. So I think he's just not in the right headspace to make a polished album anymore.
Does he still live in Jackson, Wyoming?
Yeah, he's still living in Wyoming.
I've been to Jackson, Wyoming. It is the most beautiful place in the entire world. It is a gorgeous area of America. My favorite area of America. I liked it so much I proposed to Angie in Jackson, Wyoming. The most beautiful place ever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's from the pictures I've seen, it looks spectacular. I would love to go one day for sure.
Now, I didn't propose to Angie because Kanye West lived in Wyoming, Jackson, Wyoming. That was just happenstance. I found that out afterwards. I think you told me that. Yep. I think I probably saw his house. There was a set of houses that had a runway near it, and that probably rings true for Kanye, if I'm not mistaken.
I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a lovely place. We're actually thinking about going again when the world sort of gets back to normal. We want to do a road trip, starting in California, driving to Seattle, then from Seattle, driving across the country to like Montana, Wyoming, and then go see Glacier National Park, and then drive back down to Yellowstone. So that's a road trip we want to do in a couple of years.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so hopefully maybe we can meet you guys Yellowstone or something.
Ooh, I would love that. We'll have to plan that out.
Yes. And with us in our Brisbane studio is our lovely engineer, Darren. Darren, how are you?
It's early.
Yes. We did wake up early here in Brisbane to record this episode. Thanks for waking up early, Darren. All right, so this is our 10th episode, Nick.
Yes, Big 10. I'm very excited.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Of the 9 songs that we've listened to, give me 2 of your favorites.
Okay, so my first favorite, I'm going to go with Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails. That song is heavily in my rotation. I really, really love that song. I play it all the time, like doesn't matter what environment or circumstances, like, that song's always ready to be thrown on. And then other than that, it's I think I would have to go with "Common People" by Pulp. I just think that's a really really incredible song. I maybe don't play it as much as "Head Like a Hole" because it's pretty long, but I think that's if not the best song you've shown me, like right up there.
I think
But I will say, sorry to cut you off, but I
yeah,
will
go.
say that
Mhm.
today's song might like if you ask me another 10 episodes from now and I've had time to properly digest, I think today's song might be one of the favorites, the two favorites.
The Common People song. I go through stages where I listen to that song a lot, then I can't listen to it for a year. So it's one of those songs that you can't listen to too many times, and then you just sort of get sick of it. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I listened to it for a while, then I stopped listening to it for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And do you mind if I ask you the same question? I'm
Yeah,
curious to know what your two favorites have been.
yeah. My two favorites have to be LCD Sound System, Call the Police.
Yeah.
Love that song. I'm a big LCD Sound System fan anyway, so that is an amazing song. And Close Your Eyes by Run the Jewels. Love that song.
Oh,
Listen
very
to that all
nice.
with an honorable mention going to Anderson Pack.
Okay, awesome, awesome. I wasn't expecting to throw Run the Jewels in there, but I like that's cracking your top two.
I think what we talked about earlier, where I was looking for rage in hip hop, today's hip hop, I think Run the Jewels did that for me. I did like the anger in that song.
Yeah, just scratch that itch that you had.
Yeah, so and it's funny, and I was talking to Angie about this earlier, how they're all in their 40s, which I'm in my 40s, so that sort of made sense. How there's the still that rage from a band like Run the Jewels.
Yeah, it's that middle age angst, well
Yes,
documented middle age angst.
the Generation X, we are angry people, and I have sort of been thinking about why Generation X is so angry. And in a future episode, I'm going to go into it, my theory on why we're so angry. But
Okay,
that's not for today.
okay.
Today, today I'm going to go first, and we are going to listen to Human Behavior by Bjork, one of my favorite songs from the 90s. Before we get into it, Darren, just hit play.
If you ever get close to a human and human behavior, be ready to get control.
All right, so there you go. There's a few seconds of Human Behavior by Bjork. Nick, you said early on you gave it away that you really liked this song, so tell me about it. What did you like about the song?
Yeah, so I got to be honest and preface this by saying that I am fairly familiar with Bjork. One of my good friends, Xander, is a big fan of her, and he's put me on to a couple of albums, Bjork albums. And one of the reasons I love this song and Bjork as a whole is that everything she creates is just so unique. And like from no song sounds the same, right? The production, the instrumentals, it's also very experimental, and she switches it up every single time. You don't really know what to expect when you get into a Bjork song, other than fantastic vocals and really good production. On this one particularly, I really liked the kind of syncopated beat that was going on in the background, and how it was very groovy and danceable, almost of a song, but as with a lot of Bjork tracks, the lyrics are very deep and meaningful, and she's speaking in these abstract metaphors, and I just think it's so cool. I really like this song.
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of history of Bjork. I don't know how much you know about her. She's Icelandic. When she was very, very young, she was in a band called the Sugar Cubes. The Sugar Cubes had some really good songs, but they were sort of like a pop punk, a post punk, Icelandic, very Icelandic pop sort of sounding band. And she had this melody for this song in her head since she was a teenager. But this is not a song that the Sugar Cubes could ever put out. It just didn't match the Sugar Cube sound. So she released a debut album, and the debut album is called Debut. And this song was on the debut album. If I'm not mistaken, this was the lead single from this album. From the first time we heard it, so this came out in 1993. So from the first time I heard it, I was like, "What is this?" It was such a different sounding song to what was being played in 1993. I think 1993 is like the height of grunge. You had
Yeah.
like the Smashing Pumpkins, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Nirvana. Obviously, those were the leading bands at the time. And then you come out with this little piece of art that comes out with this strange pixie of a woman singing with this amazing big voice. Yeah, it was such a great song to listen to in 1993.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what would like female pop singers have been like at the time? Like, what would the most popular ones have been in 1993? I'm just thinking of a comparison there. Like the Bjork must have been so different from American pop.
Yeah, again, you had a lot of heavier sounding female bands like L7, which was this really amazing sort of punk band. You had PJ Harvey. We're going to listen to a PJ Harvey song coming up in a few weeks. Uh, Tori Amos probably would have been the American version of Bjork, where she was much more piano driven, and her music wasn't as grungy or crunchy as the rock and roll being released at the time. And then I think in 2 years from now, or this could have been around the same time, you had the big Alanis Morissette album come out, which was ridiculously a rocket selling album. So you had a lot of really good female singers coming out around this time.
Okay, cool. And but what I think really sets Bjork apart is that Icelandic accent just sounds so cool. It's so unique and so cool.
I think the big difference between Bjork and the Sugar Cubes is the Sugar Cubes had a very much more linear sound. It was pop music, so their sound was very much more what you would normally expect from a pop song. It was more of a straight line, where Bjork is definitely not a straight line.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. She oozes creativity out of every pore. Like everything she touches is just so creative and experimental, which is fantastic.
But did you happen to watch the video for this song?
No, I didn't. But when I was preparing to record this, I saw that the music video won like awards or something. It was really, really popular at the time. So I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, I think this song is a really companion piece with the video. It was directed by Michel Gondry, who was a famous director. It was inspired by Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and it's a really, really neat video. Uh,
Okay, I will most definitely have to check that out.
yeah, so yeah, watch the video. It's really, really cool. It's very 90s, but it's a really cool video.
One thing I really appreciate about Bjork, and again, this is just from the few albums I have heard from her, and then using this as a reference for her earlier sound, but I love how she has very distinct sounds for each album and each era. And I really, really appreciate when artists do that. Like, each, sure, the songs on an album can sound different, but they're kind of tied together and cohesive by being, say a string heavy sound or a very electronic sound. I really, really like that about Bjork.
So around Bjork at the time, she was dating someone called Tricky, who was a hip hop artist, an English hip hop artist, who had some really interesting songs. And the album was produced by Nelly Hooper, who had done work with Massive Attack, Smashing Pumpkins, U2, and Garbage. So he had remixed a lot of U2 songs. He had produced some Garbage albums. So he was a very interesting producer in the 90s. He was sort of like a superstar producer in the 90s.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, hearing that she kind of had that hip hop influence around her, because you can definitely see that in just the way that the beats of her instrumentals are structured. It's very driven and like I said, dancey, and you kind of get that head nod going that you would with a hip hop song, but accompanied with that is just these soaring, epic, grand vocals, right? And I think it's just a great combination.
Yeah, I always felt like Bjork wasn't. She's not of this planet. I know we talked about Kanye West earlier, and he might not be from this planet either. But I think her voice just sounds otherworldly. It's a really amazing vocal range that she has.
Yeah, I absolutely, her range is spectacular. Sometimes I'll be listening to a Bjork song and just think, wow, how on earth is she hitting these notes? It's so good. And speaking more directly about human behavior, I think it's a really cool concept for a song, just in terms of the lyrics and what she's singing about. You know, literally just reflecting on how humans are, but I read that it's coming from the perspective of an animal almost, so it's looking at humans from that lens. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the song was inspired by David Attenborough, who is a famous documentary filmmaker who is a conservationist who makes a lot of documentaries about animals and the human impact on the world, and so it was written from her watching some of his documentaries.
Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, that's really, really cool. David Attenborough, he is an absolute legend.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
So this album, I think, it was just an EP. I think it only had 5 songs, and this being one of them. And the other 2 songs that are really good is there's a song called "Venus as a Boy," and "Big Time Sensuality" is another standout from this album. People of
Okay.
my generation love Bjork so much that I know a couple people that have named their kids after Bjork songs.
No way.
Yeah, so Isobel is another famous song of hers, I think, which was on the album after this, called Post. So yeah, she is a very important person in the zeitgeist of growing up in the 90s.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't know that. And that kind of leads me to a question that I had planned to ask you. And I'm really curious as to whether Bjork ever found mainstream success, or if she ever got any radio play or charted, or did she always kind of occupy more of an underground space?
That's a tricky answer, because she was nominated for an Oscar for one of her songs. She was in a movie, and I think she provided a song for the soundtrack of the movie. And she is famous for wearing a swan dress at the Oscars. And her purse, if I remember correctly, her purse was an egg, and she would birth the egg wearing her swan costume.
Oh my goodness.
So she was in the mainstream for that, uh, strictly for the swan dress. Just type in Bjork and swan dress into a search,
Okay.
and you'll know what I mean. And but her music, no, her music has always been sort of underground music. But she has always worked with really amazing directors for videos. The movie she was in was a really and I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was directed by an avant-garde sort of guy. And the other thing she's famous for is she got off a plane. I'm going to say it was in Thailand, and a reporter approached her and asked her a question, and she punched the reporter in the face, and they grappled on the floor and things like that. So that's the other thing she's sort of known for is punching this reporter.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So she's on the periphery of the mainstream.
Okay. Cool. Good to know. Thank you for that answer.
I would say her next album, Post, is amazing as well. And if you are into Bjork, and if you do like this song, check out Big Time Sensuality and Venus as a Boy off this album. Fantastic songs.
All right. Awesome. Awesome.
All right, Nick, you're up. Go for it.
Okay. So for me to do this song justice, I'm going to have to provide some backstory, as I usually like to do, on Tyler, the Creator. I've been a fan of Tyler, the Creator, for quite a long time. I'd say since maybe 2013. And he got his start, and he was the co-founder of Odd Future, which is a hip-hop collective. He formed Odd Future in 2007 when he was 16 years old, and they absolutely blew up through internet blogs, YouTube, and kind of just infiltrated the youth subculture at that time. And they had an unbelievably strong impact on the trajectory of modern rap music. Some other Odd Future members include Frank Ocean and Earl Sweatshirt. They both got their starts there. So See You Again, which is off his 2017 album Flower Boy, it's a love song. And when it first came out, this may have been the most unexpected, unorthodox song Tyler could ever have released. And I'll explain why after you give me your initial impressions of the song. So, Darren, why don't you just hit play on a snippet of that?
You live in my dream state. Relook at my fantasy. on my couch. Shit, that's the only time we make up, make up. You exist behind my eyelids, my eyelids. Nah, I don't wanna wake
All right. What did you think of "See You Again" by Tyler the Creator?
I had a tricky relationship with this song. I didn't really get it. The production's amazing. His voice is really good. The woman who sings in the song has an amazing voice, and I kind of knew what the song was hinting at, and I had to watch the video to confirm my notion, and I was correct. But I had a really hard time with this song. It just didn't get to me. I don't know why it was, but I think this is a song, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you would like if you like Tyler the Creator's other stuff.
That's a tricky answer to give you, and I'll kind of explain why, but it would be a long-winded answer.
Okay, sum it up. Go for it.
Okay, so in his early career, like early 2010s, Tyler the Creator was all about shock value in everything he did. His biggest burst of popularity was for releasing a music video where he ate a live cockroach. He's been banned from Australia, the UK, and New Zealand for controversial lyrics. People have called him homophobic, misogynistic, racist for all of his lyrics in his early music. And honestly, the best way to compare him for you to describe him would be as my generation's Marilyn Manson, just in the sense of how he used shock value to artistic effect and to create controversy and drama around him. And "See You Again" was just completely an absolute 180 from anything he'd ever released up until this point, aside from a couple songs on a prior album. But really, this was a very unique song in his discography at the time. Since then, he's made, he's definitely more so in this lane now of music. But yeah, it was very much different from anything he'd released.
See, that makes sense to me, because one of the problems I always had with Marilyn Manson and the shock value of Marilyn Manson is I always thought, just release a good song. Like the shock value should be, wow, that's a really good song. This left me cold. I don't know why. Like I don't know any other songs by Tyler. I don't know the backstory. I did not know anything about him. I've heard of him. I had no idea that he had been banned in Australia or New Zealand. I don't know. This song just left me a little bit cold.
What do you think could have improved the song for you? Are there any elements that you think could have been done better, or you'd have liked to see added, perhaps?
Well, my initial thought was that I didn't really understand what he was singing about, and I listened to it a few times, and I was like, okay, so it sounds like he's off to war, or he's coming back from going to war, which is a very common theme in America. A lot of people in America go to war and come back, especially people in the African community, African American community, who mostly make up the armed forces. So I thought that was a really interesting angle. I never really heard of a hip hop song about coming back from war and thinking about his girl. So that was really neat. I just didn't think it was executed very well. I don't know. It seems like he was going for all these tricks when he could have just written a really good song.
Yeah, Tyler, his singing has come a long way from 2017, but because this was like really a new sound for him at the time, like he has some rough singing moments, that's for sure. And he leans a lot on vocal effects, as we talked about last week with Travis Scott. He's always, pitching his vocals up or down to create new sounds. And this is really the start of a period in his career where he was just going very experimental, and you either like it or you don't like it. You're either on board or you're like, okay, not for me.
Yeah, I wasn't on board for it. Yeah, that's a good analogy. I definitely wasn't on board.
Yeah, but for myself, like I said at the beginning, I've been a fan of Tyler for a long time. I really liked his older music because despite the shock value, it was really good rap music. And he's always told very cinematic stories, including this song. But when he released Flower Boy in 2017, and he finally had an album that fused elements of jazz and R&B and hip hop and created this entirely new, unique sound. I loved it. And Flower Boy is one of my all-time favorite albums, completely. And I think it's just fantastic music. And I think part of that for me comes from I've been able to see him grow from, being an edgy teenager when he made that video of eating the cockroach. He was literally 19, rapping about like killing and murdering people. And I've been able to watch him on this trajectory of growing into a mature adult where he's singing about unrequited love and failed relationships and, experiencing new things in other countries and getting out of his bubble. And that's been a really, really cool experience. And I think it ties into why I love this song so much.
But it's probably a good thing that I didn't like it, because I think there are certain songs that should belong to a generation. And you, in a strange way, achieved a bit of immortality the other day, where I was at work hanging out with these other photographers who are mostly my age, and we were listening to the playlist that we listened to for all these songs, and the Frank Ocean song came on, and my coworker, who was a little bit older than me, goes, "What is this noise?"
Oh,
So,
no.
no, that's great, Nick. Like when I was your age, my music was my music. If someone in their 40s or 50s liked it, I was like, "Oh, what's wrong with this song?" So you achieved like this immortality that people of your age should strive for. Maybe the song is just not meant for me.
Yeah, and that could very well be the case. I'm just sad that your older coworker couldn't appreciate the genius of Frank Ocean, but I won't hold it against him. I understand.
No, but again, I remember when I was your age and I played someone who was 25 years older than me, like Nine Inch Nails for the first time. They're like, "What is this?"
Oh,
Like,
God, they would have thought you were crazy.
yeah, especially someone who used to listen to like the Archies or the Monkees, growing up, to listen to a little bit of industrial music. They didn't like it, and so that's good. Like that's great that people of my generation might not like certain songs. I think that's what listening to this music's about.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely, and I think you are very, very right, and I like that that you've put that spin on it.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Does so this kind of story of Tyler that I described, how he matured before our eyes and went through such an evolution in his music and the sounds he was making. Does that remind you of any other artists that you're familiar with, maybe from your time or earlier?
Yeah, it sure does. The Beastie Boys were definitely like that, where "Fight for Your Right to Party" and the "No Sleep Till Brooklyn" off their first album, they were very childish, and I didn't like them. And I was a child when that song came out. Yeah, they were seen as sort of misogynist, and the themes they were talking about. I think in "Fight for Your Right to Party," if I'm not mistaken, in the video they spike a punch bowl with Spanish Fly. Do you know what Spanish Fly is? Have you heard
I
of that?
do not. No.
Okay. Spanish Fly was this thing back in the 80s that you could buy from certain stores. It was like an aphrodisiac. You could slip it into a woman's drink and they would get horny.
Oh, okay.
So that's what Spanish Fly was. Why it's called Spanish Fly? Is it true? Is it not true? Who knows? But that was the myth at the time. It was probably just, you could buy it from stores and it was probably just water, like
Probably.
flavored with cockroaches or something. I don't know. Yeah, so that was like the Beastie Boys. They're this really sort of frat band that Rick Rubin had sort of done this like rap rock sort of thing. And it wasn't until like, the song that you listened to, "Hey Ladies," came out that they were like, wow, like this band is not the same band. So yeah, I would say the Beastie Boys would be that.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, I can see how the Beastie Boys' earlier stuff was definitely perceived that way. I mean, from what you described with that video, like that's pretty insane. I can't imagine a music video making it out nowadays with that. Like, we're definitely more aware of a society that is not cool to do.
No, no, it's played for comedic value in
Sure.
the video, because
Sure.
Tricking a woman into having sex with you was funny back then. Not so much anymore for obvious
No.
reasons.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say the Beastie Boys definitely follow that line. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm happy that I've achieved immortality again in this song. I'm a little sad that you aren't able to appreciate it because of your old age, but that's okay. Well, that's
No,
okay.
that's
We'll move on.
we'll move on. But that's great though. You want that
Yeah,
song that that is about your generation, and it's about the people around you. Yeah, no, that's
yeah,
great. That's great to have.
absolutely, absolutely. I do agree. Um, so why don't we ask Darren what he
Yeah.
thought about
Speaking of
this
someone
one?
who's around my
Yeah.
generation, Darren, what did you think?
Nah, yeah, it wasn't for me.
See, there you go.
All right. Thanks, Darren.
Yeah. It now comes to the end of the podcast, and we're going to provide you with some information. How do they send us an email, Nick?
So you can send us an email at justhitplay7300 at gmail.com. You can get in touch with us there, or you can also find us on Instagram at justhitplaypodcast. Facebook, I don't know about, so we'll leave that to the Facebook expert. Why don't you tell them about that?
Yep, Facebook. Just do a search for "Just Hit Play" podcast, and you can find the community there, where I share some little snippets of different YouTube clips that I found that are really interesting, mostly from the bands that we're listening to. I did want to say one thing about Tyler the Creator. Another reason why he annoyed me was his bio. I just remembered this.
What's his
So
bio?
his bio is American rapper, singer, songwriter, record producer, actor, visual artist, designer, and comedian. That annoyed me.
All of those things are very true.
That annoyed me. I was like, come on.
No. He produces. He has a line of shoes with Converse. He has a very successful fashion line, Golf, which has flagship stores in Los Angeles. He did all the music for the new Grinch animated kids movies and the Coca-Cola commercial. He made a flavor of ice cream. He's got like a candle out. He's doing all those things.
Maybe people with extra talent just piss me off. I don't know, but I was like, come on, just stick to your lane, man.
Yeah,
But yeah, that was like that annoyed me. Anyway, that's cool.
funny.
Also, yeah. By the way, please go into the playlist on Spotify. Just look for "Just Hit Play" playlist, because us talking about the songs is one thing. Listening to the songs is why we're here. These songs are amazing, so you should definitely go and listen to these songs on our playlist, and you can find that on Spotify.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and we're going to end the show with a song by Noella Nix. It's a song called "Holding." She is a Brisbane-based, Melbourne-based producer. This is her first song that she solely produced on her own. It was written about a relationship that was just going around in circles. It's been played in H&M and Zara stores around the world. I first met Noella when I photographed one of her gigs. It was a really interesting experience for me because because she's a producer, like singer. She was on stage singing with a laptop that was providing like the backing beats, and I'd never seen that before. So that was a really interesting thing for me. And as a photographer, usually you're trying to photograph the band, and you want to get a nice picture of the drummer, the bass player, or whatever. And I couldn't take a picture of a laptop, so I just had to sort of take pictures of Noella. So that was a really interesting experience. I'd never gone to a gig where it was just someone on a laptop, singing over the beats that they produced themselves, and it was really cool. So this is a song called "Holding" from Noella Nix. Nick, it was lovely talking to you again. We'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. And thank you for listening, everybody.
Yeah, and Darren, thank you. Darren, just hit play.